Hey everyone, welcome back to The Whole Picture, where we chat with your favorite entrepreneurs about their passion projects, hobbies, and deep interests, the things that keep them in it for the long game. Today, we are here with Goose Dunlavey, who is the former experienced host for the Skool Games and now the host for Skool IRL Games. He's currently on a world tour. They have 16 stops, I believe, planned for this year. So excited to chat about that. Welcome, Goose. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Absolutely.
You're in LA, you said. But where were you most recently in your world tour?
Well, we pit stopped in Seattle, but the last event was in Morocco, Casablanca.
Wild.
Yeah, first time in Africa, actually. That was pretty sweet.
Mm. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to chat. I really want to like dig into several things, but first I kind of want you to bring us up to speed, give us some context of, how you got to where you are, and then we can chat about some things along the way. But tell me, like, so you were the experienced host for the Skool Games. Like, tell me how you got into the school world. Like, what brought you
Mm.
into the school world to begin with?
Sure, yeah. It was the last of like a list of five different platforms that I had been toying with for like 3 to 4 years. Whether it be like Mighty Networks or Circle or any of the like usual suspects. And at the bottom of the list was Skool because you couldn't customize like the colors and stuff, which is clearly something that I'm into. So begrudgingly, I signed up, and within 3 months, I won the Skool Games. And then because I also had one that there was like this level 7 competition at the same time, and I was just screwing around on the platform constantly. So everyone just knew about Goose and his weird like colors and stuff. So I was invited to come to HQ, and then I just ended up because I'm from here, from LA. I spend most of my time traveling, but it was school that brought me back over. And from that point, I guess it was a month or two later, Sam was like, I think we could use some more fun. And so he asked me to like come in and be the extrovert at these events because school up until that point, I mean, everyone's super talented and wonderful at what they do, but most of them are introverts. And so I came in as like a people-y person to then host the rest of the games at Alex's headquarters in Vegas, which is where we were hosting all of them except for like one of them for the rest of that year and the month after. So it was actually really difficult to juggle running my communities at that time because I pivoted over to that role, which was a ton of fun. Loved it. Hosting for that many wild, successful, ridiculous people in all these different niches was like, wow, what a luxury. And that just ended in January.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so cool. First of all, love the Sam Evans impression. Great. Um, it's interesting because I like at these events, at these entrepreneur events, like we met at one of these, and for the most part, it is a lot of introverts. I think there's something about like being an entrepreneur that you just have to spend so much time like on your laptop and like in your bubble that like we're naturally drawn to that. So like for you, you're a people person. You were brought in as like the extrovert. Is that something that has always been the case for you? Did you develop this as like a skill set in your entrepreneurship journey? Like how did that go?
Great question. That was actually kind of separate. I was like in I was in middle school, and I was always kind of like kept very close to like my dad would never let me out to like go hang out and play with friends. Really, I didn't have a whole lot of friends growing up. I was kind of like the weird keep to yourself kid for most of my childhood. So at sixth grade, also my family would like usually try and sign me up for like sports that were one person, like figure skating or gymnastics or like tap dance. Like these are things that I actually did for years and not of my own volition. There was like, how about you do this? And I'm like, I'm too young. You just tell me what to do. So by the time sixth grade rolled around, I realized I didn't want to be like my family kind of, where they just kept to themselves, didn't really do a whole lot. And so I elected to sign up for every single public speaking opportunity I possibly could. So I joined theater, I did all the speeches for like the next 2 years for school, and I was like fucking terrified. I remember being on stage at one point for the theater thing, and I like wrote my lines down on my hand trying to figure it out because I really wanted to be an extrovert. I didn't know what that was called at the time, but I was like, I want to hang out with people, and I like that energy, and I was only witnessing it at that point. So that happened. Then later on in like early college, it would continue to happen when I joined Toastmasters at my first, um, I was the executive intern at the Port of Los Angeles. So it was like a cushy government internship, paid great and everything, full benefits, but it bored me to tears. And my favorite part was being able to do that, the whole like Toastmasters talk thing with like my boss and all these other high ranking old dudes that are just like, they like doing this too. And so it kind of maintained. So I guess I can sort of point back to whatever this epiphany was I had in like sixth grade, but it was like definitively sixth grade.
That's so interesting because so many of us, like I was very similar. I was so quiet that there was like a rumor going around in one of the youth groups that I was in at church that I was mute. And it was like,
Yeah.
it was really like people believed it because they had actually never heard me speak. Like, and now I have a podcast. It's so bizarre. But so, like, that was very much my experience in middle school. I think we all have that, like, kind of, thing. But
Yeah.
what's cool about your story is that you recognized that you wanted to do something different and then you pushed yourself outside of your comfort zone because often we all recognize we want something different, but the actual action of pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone and signing up for theater, like that
Yeah.
is unique. So is that something that you've noticed about yourself? Like you will take the step to push yourself outside of the comfort zone, or is that something like your parents taught you? Like where did that come from?
No, I mean, I guess it could be like something that I got from my mother, maybe biologically. She never like really instilled it in me. I suppose she would every now and then mention like, hey, you just do you, or something like this. I'm paraphrasing, but she'd say something like this. Yeah, that one was kind of it's my entire life been probably more of a curse than a blessing, frankly, but um it was this stubborn part of me that, yeah, since being young, I mean, same thing with like the colors and stuff. It I just felt like I wanted to do it. It just made me happy. And if I had an inkling that I'd have more fun being, well, extroverted, though I didn't know the word at the time, um, I would just be like, okay, I guess I'm just going to do that. Who knows? Maybe I was just channeling in the moment, just like, this is what I'm going to do next. But for the most part, it just felt like I always had this little like stubborn tendency to just be like, well, I want to do this and no one else can tell me no. And that was kind of it.
Yeah. Have
Yeah.
you have you ever taken the Enneagram test? Like, have you heard about this personality test?
Oh yeah, I've got a few friends that like always check in with me once in a while, like, hey, don't forget, this is you're like a wing something. Yeah,
Yeah. Yes, I think you're reminding me a lot. There's like it's all about, there's nine numbers and each number has like a priority. Like it's the thing
yeah,
that drives them.
yeah. I
You're
think two wing seven, maybe.
okay. I think you definitely have a seven in you because it's like seven is like fun. Like that essentially is like the priority is fun. But usually you take on like whatever's next to you as like a highlight, and like eight is like is like power and control.
Oh.
Like I'm gonna have fun and like no one's gonna tell me not to. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
that and a lot
Interesting.
of entrepreneurs are that.
I have to remember what that number is. Maybe I can message while we're on here and see what that was.
Yeah.
But because yeah, that's definitely something that people approach a lot. And maybe this happens to everybody, but like I hear that a lot and I go, "Oh, that's cool. I would love to." I enjoy analyzing personalities, and yeah, that's that and like zodiacs have always been fun for me. I don't know, like I don't know a ton of it, but I know just enough to be like, "Oh, it's like a video game."
Yeah, yeah, it kind of is. Do you know what your zodiac sign is?
Yeah, I my sun sign is a Cancer, so I'm a
Okay.
crab.
Yeah.
But most people get fire out of me,
Hmm.
which is funny because I don't have any air in my entire ch natal chart. Natal, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Uh, I don't have any air. It's all, I have a little bit of earth. I have water in the beginning, like in one other place, and everything else is fire. All
Yeah.
of it. Yeah. And so I guess I'm like yeah, just a combination of those three. But I always thought that was kind of cool because it is when you weren't looking too closely at any particular thing, it kind of made sense like out of the box, just looking at your main three. And that was always really fascinating to me. My mom was into that and she like gave me a book to read and I was always like referring like, oh, these two people, what are their interactions? And it was like spot on every time. It was super cool.
Yeah. It's interesting. And it also is interesting that you kind of became a people person because some of being a people person is just not being drained by like, that's like typically the introvert and extrovert is like I'm energized
Yeah.
by people or I'm not. Like that's the
Yeah.
whatever. But like if you are into like personality types and horoscope and stuff, it's like not only are you not drained by people, but you're interested in people. And I
Yeah.
think is that something that was fair to say for you? Like you
Yeah,
felt
for sure. It's always just like it's really excited for me. If I had any kind, like for example, that internship I was telling you about, paid well, awesome benefits, like I was killing it right out of the gate, and I couldn't have been more fucking bothered by it because it was mostly just me doing my own thing. I had to like throw on a tie, and I'm like, I'll wear ties sometimes just for the fuck of it, but if I have to, it takes all the fun out of it. So I'm just like, it was totally just like a cementing fact that probably the traditional path would just not fulfill me no matter how solid that traditional job would look.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience. It was like 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, and I was like, well, I'm not doing this the rest of my life. Like, I cannot
How
do this.
how old were you when that happened?
23
Yeah,
around there. Yeah,
early on.
very early. And I already was dreading the corporate world, like going through college. I was already like, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
But I tried to find a fun one, and it just wasn't. I couldn't. I was homeschooled too, so like I had never had the experience of like you have to sit in one spot until the clock hits a certain point. Like
Yeah.
I had to finish my work, but once
Yeah.
my work was done, I could leave.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
When I
yeah,
look back on that, it kind of like it's sort of terrifying. Like my worst dreams have to do with school. I was never cool. I was never popular. I didn't have a big group of friends. Even when I started becoming more introvert, I was still weird. And so there's not really any part of it that I look back on fondly. And in a lot of ways, I wonder like if I was untethered from that growing up, would I have had more fun or developed in a different way that I would have appreciated it? It's hard to say. But yeah, the traditional schooling system for me is just like oil and water. It never would have worked. And to imagine going through it now is like nails on a chalkboard.
oh yeah. I was just talking to Reeve Coleman. We were all chatting at the yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I spoke with him yesterday, actually.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I was just talking to him, and he was saying how like that's how school was for him. And it's so many entrepreneurs because we have this like internal like drive of like I am going to do the thing that I'm going to do, and it's the responsibility is on me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and school takes it off of you. And so then you're just stuck in an environment where you're like, this person is telling me what to do and when to do it, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
could
No,
not be bothered.
exactly. That's always been such a big thing that um yeah, I don't know what it is, but um whenever I look back on that those periods of time, it's maybe it was necessary because now I can like with total conviction and great enthusiasm be like, I love not doing any of that anymore. And I know for a fact I could never exist in the corporate life. Um, but I can also draw from it like one of the other big things that I appreciate, which probably you connect with too, is like all of the things that I was all the things that and maybe everyone can kind of relate to this. All the things that make you unique when you're growing up are the fucking bane of your existence. Kids just pick and prod and destroy you over it. But then as you get older, those are the things that everyone wishes they had more of. And they're like, "Oh, I love that. How did you do that?" I guess you just resist the temptation to like shove it down and bottle it, I suppose. I really don't know.
Yeah, that's so interesting because yes, you're right. Like I was different as a kid, you know, and my dad's from Iran. Like I had a really long Iranian last name and I like felt, you know, I was like in a place where everyone had their last name was like Smith and like Jones and everyone was like blonde and blue eye and I felt different and other always. And then when I started acting, that was like cool. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, we need diversity. We need, you know, we need someone who's like different, you know? And I was like, oh, okay. Like it does come like full circle in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was like, so like this color and fashion and like the thing that you have in you now, is that like, was that showing up in middle school? Were you like coming to school and like new trends and like that kind of thing? Or,
Man, I am so not a fashionista. I'm really bad at it. In fact, most of my closet is just like shitty Amazon stuff. But I've always just enjoyed I've always enjoyed not like just putting things together in weird ways. I love when you have patterns that clash, but altogether it's like it's a chaos that it's I don't know, jarring and fun to me. So I'll tell you a story about it. When I was in when I was in my last year in high school, um, no, I'll take it back. I'll take it back first. We'll go back to middle school because this is when it first started showing up. I would just grab the shit off the top of my pile and just throw it together. I didn't care. I loved it when I had mismatched socks. That was like way more fun for me. For whatever reason, I was just like, this makes me happy. And I remember like one of my favorite outfits was like I had this spinny hat, like now which now known as like the Google spinny hat, I guess, where you could just like hit that little fan on top. I loved wearing that. I had this cool Spider-Man shirt that I really liked. That had like a big picture of like Spider-Man's mug right on the front. And then I had this cool space tie that I got from the Griffith Observatory here in LA. And I would just put on a tie on a t-shirt, and then I just grab whatever shorts were there, if they were plaid or checkered or whatever. And that was just, if I could do that every day, I would just do it. At first, it started because it was simple. I didn't have to think about anything. I just like put stuff together. I never really thought about like spending time on putting an outfit so that you looked a certain way or attracted a certain sort of response. Way beyond me. And what what brought my attention to it was actually how often I'd get resistance. Like, what are you doing? How could you put like the amount of resistance that I would get on that was like so intense that I instead of doing it, I started instead of listening to them, I started thinking to myself like, what is it that's bothering these people so much? Like, how in the world is it like even if it was the same outfit, but they were like louder colors, really a color like this is just me, my middle school self being like a color drives that much emotion. I don't for some reason it was the way my head thought. So fast forward to like college, sorry, high school. It happened again in a big way because I like my family was never like really that warm. We didn't have like big gatherings together that often, even for holidays and stuff. So it was just kind of like yeah, whatever. And so when I started dating my girlfriend in high school, last year of high school, their family was so warm and loving, and the environment was always like physically warm, and everyone was just like it was a family. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I respected their opinion because it was just like a nice environment, and it was quite addictive. And so they were just like, why do you keep like maybe you could just stop being so you a little bit, you know, just like put on some tans, some navies, put yourself together a little bit, put the right socks on so they match. And I did that for a little while, and it just felt like something was missing. It was like I was leaving something on the table the whole time. So it was like another time, but this time I listened sort of because I respected the environment a lot. And because I went so deep into it, I knew, like I learned within the next year, I was like, yeah, this is certifiably just not me. And people won't get it, and that's fine. They don't need to. But it's just, it's hard, I think, for anybody to resist the urge to emulate the people that they respect around them, even if that's not how they actually feel. It's not who they actually are. And I almost felt like that was the biggest conflict that I was facing growing up was I had this list of expectations for me that regardless of who I was personality wise, my family just wanted a person that looked like this. And for better or worse, they got someone who was very different. And I had to just like come to terms with that very alone feeling. Do what they wanted and be not so happy, or be happy but alone. And that was kind of what I elected to do.
Mm. So interesting because I think a lot of entrepreneurs come to that conclusion in different ways, but entrepreneurship inherently is kind of isolating. I was just talking to someone about this on another episode, but I found myself very much like I'm the only entrepreneur that I knew in my circle. So like while everyone else was like at a party, I was like home learning like fonts and like how to like, I was like always other. Like I was always here and everyone was doing the normal thing in your 20s. And so I'm curious if that like you kind of came to that conclusion in another way, like I'm going to be happy or on my own, being who I am. Did that like set you up in entrepreneurship because you had kind of already experienced that feeling of like, I'm a little different than this pack? Because entrepreneurs are a little like different than the pack, right? Did you find that same feeling?
Oh yeah. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure it had a connection, but to me, it was like a very long and drawn out one. Like I wish I knew, like I've got people that work with me now who are fucking 20. And I'm like, man, if I could have spent the last 13 years in those circles, what a life it would lead. Maybe I wouldn't learn the things that I learned on this like zigzag shit ass journey that like had a lot of bumps along the way. And so I I think my conclusion I came to was that when I imagine me sort of like stubbornly being me, I don't know for sure what benefits happened along the way to make me like myself now, but I do know that everything that did happen and all the decisions that I did make about like kind of doing my own thing, marching my own beat, that did finally come around at like the age of 30 as like all of a sudden my people just started showing up. And it really coincided with like finding school where everyone was just like, you, I like that. I like what you're doing because we don't see this a lot in business. And I would just hear that all the time. Like business, so it's so hard as it is, and it's so lonely. It's so nice and refreshing to see someone who's just fucking doing their own thing and they're totally cool with it. And that was the first time that I'd ever gotten like consistently any sort of public of like positive reinforcement. And even still today, I'm like, is this a dream? Because the first 30 years of my life was just, I'm just doing this. And I mean, it's just for me. It's not giving me very many benefits outside of that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long one. So I guess a little bit yes, a little bit no. I really can't say for sure if it helped with the entrepreneurial thing, but it didn't, it's not contradicting it.
Yeah. Yes, I find that a lot of things that like I did, as a kid now prepared me for entrepreneurship, but it never felt linear. Like you just said, zigzag, all of it. That is how I think everyone feels, but from the outside, it often looks like people have this linear thing where they say, they did this and then they did this and they did this. And yet it's never, I don't really think ever the case.
I like to call it the 10-year overnight success
Yeah.
because it's all of these little things that you think are meaningless. I've seen this happen now. Now that it's happened to me, I can see it a million times over, especially with entrepreneurs. It's the fact that you were doing all of those swing and misses and just stubbornly doing what you knew you felt you had to. And then all of a sudden, because you put in on all that time, sweat, tear, energy, the kayak flips at a certain point and you start seeing the results of everything you've been doing all at once. And I don't think I've seen a single person who's successful in this space that hasn't had that thing happen, this like multi-year overnight success.
Yes, that's exactly my other world is acting. And that often is the case. You'll all of a sudden start to see an actor like in everything, and
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, they're blowing up. Like meanwhile, this person has been acting since they were 6 and like has, gone
Yeah,
through everything.
exactly. Yeah. It's almost like you have to pay your universal dues. And then the universe at one point is just like, okay, cool. I think you can handle it now.
Yeah.
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 I
It's
almost feel like there's a whole esoteric approach to this that just as likely, just as easily explains this weird phenomenon because it happens so often.
Yes, I do believe there is some level of like universalism or like I'm curious about your personal development journey along all of this because one of I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Larson or Stephen Larson from the ClickFunnels world, but um he talks about how entrepreneurship is the greatest personal development course that you never signed up for
Yeah.
because it just requires you to go so deep into your psyche and your ego and
Sacrifice.
the way that you look at things. So, what's been your experience with that as you became an
Oh
entrepreneur?
man. Sorry, pardon.
Yeah, you're fine.
I'm still a little bit sick. One sec.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh, sweet. Got that out of me. That was like on the edge of my throat.
Oh, the worst.
I know. Okay. Sorry, your question was, can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah, basically just how you have experience, how personal development and maybe your spiritual journey or the way that you view
Yeah.
the world has shifted as you've gone through the journey of entrepreneurship.
Wow. The big word that stands out a lot is sacrifice because I find my biggest growth points happen when I'm sacrificing something else or willingly subjecting myself to like pain.
Yeah.
There seems to be another universal standard there of like if I'm comfortable, I'm regressing. And that making that connection took a little while. There's this group they teach facilitation in Berlin, AJ and Smart.
Hmm.
I was talking with their founders and they were telling me about this theory that they had, which is beautiful, about explorers and settlers, where there's about one settler, sorry, one explorer in the world for every 30 settlers. And that's probably how it should be. But the main disadvantage there is that it means most likely the explorer is going to think something's wrong with them for the longest amount of time. Well, until they find their space of other explorers, like, oh, okay, there's other people that think this way. And I started seeing that the most when I was hosting these Skool Games events. Most people would come, like the lead magnet was you get to hang with Sam and Alex. And then the reason why you were so excited and the benefit that you got for your real life, it actually wasn't that. That was being able to show up in a room where you didn't have to explain yourself. And I kept hearing that over and over was you were now with other people that kind of did that same thing. And I felt it too. So I knew it firsthand. And what a bizarre experience it is to see all of these people who are winning in the entrepreneurial space. But when you really get to know them, especially the ones that are winning the most, like even the Skool Games winners, when you would see them, a lot of them would spend almost all of their energy, and in a lot of cases, the revenue that they made, they broke even at the end of their win because that 50K that they made, they spent 45 of it.
Yeah.
Great. They spent the last 5K on like flights and to come visit us in Vegas. And so it was showing to me too that what you were mentioning before about that like iceberg effect where it's like there's so much else going on in the background. That's probably like the biggest conundrum with us marketers, which I didn't realize I was until I was doing it. Everyone was like, "Yeah, you're doing a great job." Um, there's the world thinks you're doing this certain way, and that everything was just like super easy, and man, I'm envious. But like, man, the amount of sacrifice that I had to do in order to get here was tumultuous. In fact, I'll tell you one other story here, which is one of my first businesses that I had started out of college. I mean, I started a slew of them, but one of them, I was making pretty good money in China. I was living there for a couple of years, getting investors into projects in the US. And the end of that resulted in my business partners taking the company from me, leaving me with the debts, And so I had to file bankruptcy and I lost like all my cars. I lost like 360 grand just like that. And so from that point, my family, of course, lawyers and doctors were like, sue them bitches into the dirt. They're in China. I was like, I'm just gonna take that notion and like try and do something that I want to do a little bit more. And so I just started traveling and I had a camera and I was just trying to learn how to edit and stuff. I didn't know anything really about the course world. I would later come to that about a year later. Um, but that experience kind of forced me to like it was losses like that that were exactly the thing you were just referring to that made me kind of have to reflect and step away and like evaluate, is this really what I want to do? Is the is the risk and the loss worth the gamble of success on something that I think I really want to see happen in my life? And every time, if the answer is yes, then you're just telling the universe again, yeah, I'm ready to like do what it takes to make this entrepreneurial thing work.
Mm.
So in a lot of ways, I think I would have to agree with you. There's no way you could get there without that. Like it goes hand in hand in entrepreneurship for sure.
Yeah, because it's you. I mean, really, like entrepreneurship is like you are steering the ship. You are, it's like, that extreme ownership book I always go back to because it's like that's the reality is that you're the one in charge of your team. And if there's something happening, it's on you, you
Yeah,
know, and not even from a negative perspective. Like I find that kind of empowering. Like it's like if I cause the problem, I can find the solution.
yeah,
And verse, I think what I grew up with was like it's always someone else's problem. Like there's a problem of, the infrastructure. Well, it's the economy. Okay, but some people are thriving right now. So what they're not living
yeah,
in a different economy, so it
yeah,
has to be our fault. It's on us for sure. Still.
yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah, that stuff happens a lot. You know, it's funny too, and again, I'll reference all the Skool Games winners here. Every single one of them will tell you when you get like really intimate with them on the topic of how they got there and what they're doing, they will be the first to tell you, and these are guys making like 30K and above monthly. Um, every single one of them is like, yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just figuring it out as I go. That's it. And that's actually a really empowering feeling for people who are like, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm not working. Don't worry, that doesn't change. It stays like that. You never really figure out what you're doing. You just start seeing patterns that you can emulate that you've done before and seem to succeed.
Yeah. That is so, I think it's like such a it's so opposite because I know I have found myself in my entrepreneurship journey, I found myself not taking action until I knew exactly what the next 12 steps were.
Yeah.
And then when I didn't, I was like, well, this doesn't work because I can't see the rest of But then, like you're saying, people who are finding success are taking action when they just see step one in front of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Shoot first, aim later. That's literally everyone who has been successful in entrepreneurship that I've seen, 100% of them, they didn't know. They just did it, which is hard. This is like maybe one of the biggest mental hurdles to get over is they just did it in spite of how sloppy it was, and then they slowly started figuring it out later on. That
Yeah.
is 100% the thing. Most people even when they hear this, will be like, yeah, but it'd be great if I could just like have a no. You if you figured it out, it's wrong, probably.
Yeah.
So just do it because it's actually the process of doing it that will take you there way faster through trial and error. That's literally the only way to learn. It makes me think actually it could be a lot of like our learned way of learning, which we would have to unlearn, which is you want to, in school, you prepare for everything. Traditional school, you prepare for everything and then do it. And unfortunately, even though that looks good on paper, psychologically, in order to learn something, I think anything, you try it and then you figure out how to make a better version of it. So I don't think it's exclusive to entrepreneurship, but I think entrepreneurship is a prime example of it.
Yeah. It's it's kind of reminding me of something that one of my business coaches used to say, which is you can't steer a parked car. And like we often, like we want to make the funnel perfect before we run traffic to it. But like you can't make a funnel perfect until there's traffic in it to show you where
Oh,
people are dropping off.
dude, I'm so gonna write that down. Who said that?
Her name is Julie Chanel, and
Oh, go Julie.
she's amazing. Yes. She was my very first business coach. I fell into this world and I had no idea what I was doing. And she was one of the top affiliates for Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets
Yeah.
launch. And yeah, she used to say you can't see a parked car because I would obsess over, well, but this funnel isn't quite looking right or whatever, or this is going to cause people to drop off. And she's like, you don't know because people are not in it yet. So
Wow.
like, we're trying to, it's not to say to be reckless, but like you can't problem solve when you don't have any data to show you what the problem is.
Right. Yeah. Wow. What a great way to explain it. Props, Julie. That's exactly it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, you mentioned travel a little bit back then. So like you had, went through this experience where, you were had like a really bad experience and all of the money that was lost and everything. And instead of, reacting in a legal way, you took a camera and you went and traveled.
Yeah.
So like where were you traveling? Where did you get that idea? Was travel something that was always like, because you're traveling again here now. So has that always been something that you've wanted to do, or like where'd the travel come in?
Oh, it's always just been my favorite thing in the world. My first international trip, I was 16 and I went to Ecuador. We were in the Galapagos for a school trip, school research trip for 2 weeks. And by week two, maybe a little bit, most of the people there were like about being home, they missed home. And I was like, dude, I live here. If I didn't, I
Oh, I
remember,
think I think
sorry,
we're breaking up for just a sec. Hold on one second. I want to make sure I hear all your story, but you're breaking up.
sure,
Let
no worries.
me let me see. Maybe if we turn our cameras on and off because sometimes it gets overloaded.
Yeah, no worries.
I just see you frozen, unfortunately. Um, oh, I love you. Yeah.
Uh, oh, yes. Okay. So, what was the last thing you heard?
You started to say yes, traveling. You said you went on an international trip when you were 16, and then
Yeah.
it started breaking up.
Yeah. So day when we got to like I don't know, it was within the first week, and people were bitching and moaning about like I want to be home, I miss home, stuff like that. And I was thinking to myself, like listening to this, going, if I never return home, I am fine. This is amazing. We're like snorkeling on a different island every day. I'm with all these animals and fish, and like the animals aren't scared of you in the Galapagos. I mean, I don't know if it's changed since then, a long time ago, but like that experience was just so cool. So it sat with me. And then later on, when I was in my 20s, I remember my one of my girlfriends at the time being like, "Hey, do you want to go travel?" And my answer was, "No, I'm not ready. I need to finish setting up my business and getting more revenue going through." And she said something to the effect of, I don't think you really have to. It's probably not how it works." And I kind of shelved it, but begrudgingly like agreed to start traveling. We went to like South America and we were living in Brazil for a little while, something like that. But that was one of the times that I started reevaluating it. And so since I got into entrepreneurship, into this category of entrepreneurship, because I was kind of always doing it, but now I was like doing online courses and stuff when I started traveling again. That to me was sort of my realization that I was doing it backwards. I didn't have to succeed so that I could travel. If I really wanted to do it, I would travel and therefore I would succeed. And so I did that for the last 5 years, just living out of a backpack pretty much. It's still relatively new and weird for me to be back in LA. This is just my dad's place. And and extra weird to have a car. Now I don't know if you've seen the school whip. Um,
No.
I'll have to send you a picture. It's just like every panel's a different color. It's yellow and blue and red. It's a Tesla. And because at the office we only have Teslas evidently.
Yeah.
Um, but like it was weird because I haven't had a car in a really long time. Um, yeah, it was so many bizarre things coming back home after traveling for so long. And that was probably the number one thing I missed. I loved being at the office. It's like what a luxury to be able to spend that time like working with the team so intimately on so many things. And a lot of times it's just like last year, all of last year, most of it was just like me and Sam or me, Sam and Nick, or Kirby might show up one month for a week or something like that. But it was really like not many people were there and we were like in it. Amazing opportunity. But the longer I stayed, the more I was like, I was getting this literal wanderlust, where I was just like, I felt this pain, that I just needed to be traveling again. I missed it. So when the opportunity came around and the Skool Games was going to be pivoting from monthly to quarterly, immediately I was like, okay, I think I have this idea I want to run with. And Sam was like, well, school isn't ready to do it yet, but go to town, whatever you want to do, just do it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And so that was what lined up the 16 different, not countries, but cities, 16 different cities, which is what it's at now. Um, and though it's traveling more, like a little bit faster than I prefer to be like 2 to 3 months in a given area. Um, it's like I feel that part of me coming back to life that I love, where I'm in a new spot. Everything's a little uncomfortable. I don't know the place. I may not know the language, and I'm probably not wearing the outfits that people expect
Mm.
of those who are living or staying in that place. But man, the stuff that I learned, the ability to like reframe my reality without any kind of effort. Like, oh, that's normal here. I guess I forgot that that's like an artificial reality that I was living in. And that semblance of like that ability to reframe so easily just by traveling, just by changing your location, for me, it's like what drives my it's like a fire that drives me.
Mm.
I can't imagine doing it any other way other than, travel, maybe spending a little bit more time in these places, which will probably be what happens after I'm done with this tour. Just a
Yeah.
season.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what was next. And it's so interesting because I saw this one like audio sometime, like on TikTok, like these audios go viral. I don't know where the source of it was, but it basically was like once you start traveling, you'll never be home again because there's some level of like every place. I haven't gotten to travel quite as much as I wanted to, but I spent time in like Alaska and Paris and London, and I I picked up things from these places that like I'm in Manhattan. There's a lot of culture here. There's a lot of great food here, but occasionally I'll be like, I miss Vancouver so much. Like I
Mhm.
just have this like, I want to go there. Or like I miss this, wherever you are, you miss a piece of the last place that you were or a place
Yeah.
previously.
Wow, yeah, that's totally cool. It's interesting in my case, I just miss all of the places all the time. If I'm in the States, I'm usually pretty I wouldn't go as far as saying unhappy, but the wanderlust is like active and kicking around in my chest. And so it's when I'm outside of the US that I'm like just I'm on it could be the stormiest day and I'm stuck inside and it's a little tiny like Airbnb, and I'm just like, this is cool. I'm happy with this. This makes me really happy. Um, yeah, I totally recognize what you're saying, and I would urge you to get on doing a little bit more travel. You could probably do some podcasts while traveling. All you need is a good internet connection.
It's
And
great.
there's there's something about being able to like like what a luxury to be at that point in human history where you can show up any place in the world. Like that hasn't been lost on me. And that's why I feel like it's almost a duty that I have to like the rest of human existence and the people alive now that can't do what I can do. Like, not only do you need the money, you need to be born in the right country. Like
Yeah.
I hit all the things at the right time in human history.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, like, wow, what a freaking luxury. And I can just show up on the other side of the world for 500 bucks. I'm there. Sign me up. I will do that time and again. And it keeps me humble a lot too, because if I'm in one spot and I'm just killing it in that location, it's really quick for me to just like the ego creeps up and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm the boss. And then as soon as I switch over to some other thing, you start finding some other place, you start finding like all these other people who just, when you see so many that live so differently, you're constantly recalibrated. And
Yeah.
I love that. It just makes me way, way too happy. Do you find a similar situation for yourself when you travel, like the places that you miss?
Yes, absolutely. I am constantly challenged. I think in our, like, I grew up in Florida. I was in Florida for the first 29, 30 years of my life. And I didn't have a lot of challenge in that environment. I was so familiar with it, so used to it. And then I moved to New York and everything is difficult in the best way possible. Like you're talking about like being stuck in an Airbnb and you're like the happiest you can be. I'm like, a rat just ran across my foot and there's like, it's raining, it's 12 degrees, and I'm like have the biggest smile on my face because I'm like, I'm in New York City. Like this is where I wanted to be always, my whole life.
Yeah.
So yes, it's amazing and it's challenging. Like I had to relearn how to get groceries because I'm not shopping for a whole week at a time anymore. I have to walk up 4 flights of stairs and down a block to go get groceries.
Yeah.
So it's like you're relearning every habit in your life every time you travel to a new place. And that does something to your brain to where everything is up for debate. Everything can be audited. You're like, that's
Yeah.
not the way I'm going to do this anymore. You're not
Yeah.
ever in a place that's a rut.
That's right. It's easy when you're stuck in one place for an extended period of time to be like, to forget that you have control over a lot of things. And when you're moving around, you see that happen. You remember, oh yeah, literally my reality is what I'm making it.
Yeah.
And you gain or lose power depending on your ability to keep that in focus, you know?
Yeah.
When it comes to, I mean, the crazy thing about what you're describing is that I almost feel like the only way to keep yourself not NPC'd or prevent yourself from going back to that is you have to do some aggressive shift like that. And I don't know a better I mean, maybe psychedelics, I guess, but like travel. Like that is the number one thing in my book that like you show up in a new place, you're not in a hotel, right? You're not trying to take home with you.
Yeah.
You're in a new place, you're in an Airbnb. Some families like helping introduce you to the city or something like that. Like that to me is the single greatest way that certainly an entrepreneur, but probably most people can reclaim control in their life or maintain a sense of control in their life, oddly enough.
Yeah. I 100% agree. It is the fastest way to just break through what's not
Yeah.
working. I'm I'm eternally grateful that I got the chance to be in New York and change my environment because it has catapulted me in ways, and that's why we made the decision to do it. We needed, my husband and I were like, if not now, when?
Yeah.
Like what are we going to be, 60 and moving to New York? And that's great. And yes, people do it. But
Yeah.
like, why not when we're 30?
Yeah.
Like it really has changed my life. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If it was up to you and you had all control of all things, where would you travel to?
I am dying to go to Tokyo. It's like
Oh,
top of my list.
dude, I'll
Um,
be there next month in like literally 30 days. Come for the Skool IRL event.
I would die. I would love that.
Yeah.
Tokyo is top of my list. Also Greece and my husband and I were gonna go to Italy for our honeymoon. We got married in December and then are like gonna do like a delayed honeymoon so we have time to like figure out where we want to go.
Yeah.
And he's an artist, actor, like so he really wants to go to Florence. Like that's like,
Oh,
very like
cool.
artsy. He wants to go do
Yeah.
that. So yeah, I have a lot on my list still.
Wow, that's so cool. Are you gonna just do like a few months of it?
I think we kind of had to figure out what works best with our like lifestyle because we
Yeah. You
as
got
an
the two cats
actor,
too.
we have two cats. We do have a wonderful cat sitter who I think our cat might like a little bit better than us. Like every time we leave, he sends us pictures and like Bowie's like curled up on his shoulder. And I'm like, okay, at least I know they're taken care of.
You guys
But
are getting too close, okay?
yeah, like this is it's funny. But yeah, he's from London, so he's like here, like he's traveling here. And so we
Gotcha.
like end up switching places. But
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so this has been so much fun. I love chatting with you, and I'm
Yeah.
curious like what's next for you? Like you mentioned like longer trips maybe. I know you have these events coming up and there's like a software that you're talking about. So like tell me some of the stuff that's up next for you.
Sure. Okay, well, I'll tell you my long-term goal personally, and then I'll tell you about the other things. The first one is that I realized I think it was also middle school. I couldn't put it to words, but I could visualize it. And now I can put it to words, which is what I want to do. And I think I'll probably start that by the end of this year. Is I still have Airbnbs here in the States, and what I want to do is have an Airbnb for me and my friends to travel to in Europe, Southeast Asia, and maybe one other place. So if we want a sun chase or winter chase or whatever, um, we could just do that at a moment's notice. Just take it off, go visit that place, have like those of my friend group that need to have, a certain level of stability. Okay, sure, you're fine. And those of us just, in my case, might like to have some shit waiting for me that I don't have to repurchase or something like that. That works for me too. And that's kind of my longer term goals. I think I want 4 locations that we can just like bounce around in the world. Um, so I have 3 to go. And then to answer your other question, so what's happening after this? I think after the world tour, it's interesting. I find myself, I don't know if it seems like you're mostly a creative as well. When you come from the creative side into business, it's different from being, I guess, maybe business savvy, which I was not at all. And even still, I think I struggle with it a lot. My creative side is like really, it's always there. And for that reason, I think a lot of times I might, for lack of a better word, just be channeling. So I'll just be like, oh, I have this feeling. Okay, we're gonna do this. And that's usually how I'll make a lot of my bigger decisions is just off of feeling. So I don't know if I can predict what will happen after this. I can tell you that I would like to, as you said, do longer term travel. That would be like 2 to 3 months in a spot. Um, and continue being able to bop around that way. And I think I'd like to be able to travel with my team more because when you're doing IRL stuff with your group, man, you achieve so much faster than remote. Although remote is also, I mean, it has its perks too. Yeah, I think that's where we go. And then to answer your final question, the software, it's basically like a Slack plus Go High Level for Skool, the platform, because Skool has to say simple.
Yeah.
And so I was working with the team a lot to try and build out what that tertiary thing, that third party thing could look like. Um, and so that will probably be out by the end of this month. And we're already running it. It's actually already an extension on Skool on for the Chrome store. So that's where everyone will be able to access. It's like a little goose that shows up next to the cat if you have that Easter egg on Skool. And it's
Okay.
called Skool Goose. My team named it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm in a few school communities and I have used communities in every facet of my business, all different ones. And I will say that school is my favorite just from the simplicity factor of it.
Oh, you're not just saying that?
I'm not just saying that. I
Okay.
really, I really am not because I
Yeah.
have tried, as you said, Circle and Mighty Networks, and I've
Yeah.
also tried in a million different Facebook groups and Facebook is a time suck and it's difficult and it's people used it originally because it was like, oh, well, that's where everyone is. But yeah, that's where everyone is killing time.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
like then you're not making the intentional decision to go in and learn something, and then you have to go log into another platform to find the curriculum.
Yeah.
So it truly actually is one of my favorite platforms that I've used. So I know a lot of coaches are going in that direction. It's just
Yeah.
simple.
So that's where the extension started, actually. The School Goose thing is it was like we have focus mode, and like the bookmark thing is rolling out here soon, and like making your DMs list longer, because right now it's just like this little corner thing, random little conveniences like that.
Nice.
Because I agree with you, it's good because it's simple. And so, but as you make it like your business, you do need to, there's complexities that you don't necessarily want to go high level for, because like God, it's like
Yeah,
overkill
it's a lot.
for most things that I think a lot of us are trying to do.
Hmm.
But there's a few pieces from that that are just like, wow, if that could just be stay, like it's almost like I was making it for myself really the whole time.
Yeah.
Because if I could have all of that, the KPIs, the team tracking, the CRM and other little frills, like if I could have that in one place that like plugs in natively, I'm sold. I'm in.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's basically what it is.
that's exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that. So we're gonna link everything down in the show notes there so people can catch up with you wherever you are in the world and your handle so people can follow along. I know you're always reposting people and you're always in the coolest locations. You were in like I was on your page and you were in
Yeah.
like a mansion at one point, right? Like you had some cool like mansion that you guys were in or something.
Oh yeah. Well, I was, I know we got to end, but I'll tell you
Yeah.
this quick story here. Um, when I won the school games, that month, I thought it was stupid that we would just spend one day and all of us would be at different hotels. And so I just bought a mansion for us. And I was like, School Games winners, hey, because no one was talking to each other. Everyone was like shy or busy or whatever. And so I was like, hey, do you want to? They're like, oh, Goose, yeah, totally. I'll jump in. And so we had a house full of people. It was amazing. The feedback was so positive. It was everyone's favorite part of that experience. And then 2 months later, school hires me to do the same thing. So I was booking a new mansion every time. I mean, the management of like beds and stuff was a nightmare. But the that experience of like hosting a mansion for all the School Games winners every time, it was everyone loved it, and it
Yeah.
still has lasting connections. Oh, and check this out. I actually got all of us the first month. Let's see if I can show you. We got torch tattoos
Nice.
for the School Games. So yeah,
That's
it
so
was
cool.
that's exactly it. So what you saw on there was probably one of the mansions. I didn't unfortunately record a ton of them, but we do have content from it, and I'll have to put some of those up there. But if you ever get a chance to live in a big house with a bunch of your friends that do the same thing that you do, you can't imagine how far it goes. It doesn't even have to be a formal mastermind. It just takes off.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, Goose, thank you so much for chatting with us. Thanks for all your wisdom on travel and on entrepreneurship and being yourself. If you had any parting advice for the people who you serve, for the community that you have, what might your parting advice be
Mhm.
to them?
Okay. Probably be it always looks good from the outside, looks better from the outside. And if you're feeling discomfort, it's probably in the right direction. So, like the whole idea of taking action and then figuring it out, like, do not underestimate how successful that will make you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks for your time.
You're so welcome, Brittany. Thank you for having me, man.